What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the second part of a story where Issei was neglected and left. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations. Now, let's get into part 2. 1 month after the Bale vs Gremory battle, Issei was sitting at a small cafe with a cup of warm tea. He had grown to enjoy tea in the morning because it helped him relax and enjoy the quiet before the others in town began to make noise. "Would you like anything else, master?" Virgo asked as she stood next to her master with her eyes, wanting to be given orders until Issei smiled at the girl and patted her head. "If you want something to do, then tie yourself up for being so useless," Issei said as Virgo blushed at the orders before taking her rope and tying herself up before she handed one end to her master, who pulled it, making the rope tighten around Virgo's body, which made her gasp and moan at the pleasure that her master was giving her. "Yes. I apologize for being so useless." Virgo moaned lewdly as she enjoyed the pleasure even more, until a chuckle was heard from someone who was amused by the show before him. I have to admit. It's amusing seeing you be a sadist on your masochistic spirit while you enjoy the company of your other two spirits. The person said as Issei turned to see Vali walking towards the duo before sitting across from Issei and smiling at him. "So I hear this past month has been pretty hectic for you, huh?" Vali asked as Issei nodded before Virgo brought some tea to Vali, while remaining tied up, much to the dragon's amusement, as Issei decided to pull Virgo back to his side. "Thank you for serving, Virgo, but we need some privacy. Dragon to dragon. I promise to continue our session later," Issei said as Virgo nodded in understanding as she was sent back to her key before Issei took another sip of his tea. "I have to admit, when you asked me to meet you in a cafe, I wasn't expecting a nice one like this. Does the staff even know that you are a dragon?" Vali asked. Issei didn't say anything as he pointed to the back of the cafe, where the staff blushed as they admired the red and white dragon emperors in their restaurant. The staff owner is a mage who enjoys making places where supernatural beings can be themselves, so the staff here are well aware of who we are, Issei said as he winked at one of the girls. The girl blushed at the wink, which made the other girls jealous. At the same time, Vali just chuckled at his rival's actions. "And to think you weren't this confident back when you asked her on a date," Vali said, earning a light glare from Issei before he adopted a teasing grin. "Oh, really? This coming from the guy who almost blew up his first date with a repeat stalker?" Issei asked Vali, blushing. Of the two dragons, Issei had the most dating experience, while Vali had none, so Vali needed Issei's help with advice on dating the fairer sex. "Oh, really? And this coming from the guy who tried to beat Kana in a drinking contest for a kiss? Oh, you want to do this, Mr. Butt Lover. I happen to know that you really enjoyed looking at Ultier's ass when she was getting some books from the library. And what about you when Brandish nearly suffocated you with her bust after enhancing them with her magic? Hey. Those breasts were like pillows, and your one talk since you loved Di Maria's lap pillow when she kicked your ass. I'll have you know that her legs were soft, and she caught me off guard. The first time I believed that, but the second and third time? Now that's just you letting her get you between her thighs." Issei and Vali argued while the female staff giggled at the two, as they could tell that they were good friends. The two dragons eventually shared a good laugh until they sighed in relief as they took a sip of their respective drinks. Issei finished his first before asking Vali. "So, how have things been going for you lately? Did you finally confess to Kuroka and ask her out?" Vali finished his drink as he nodded in response. "Yep. You wouldn't believe how happy she was that I confessed to her. She really wanted to make kittens with me so quickly, but I stopped her and wanted to build a relationship with her that was real. After being in a real relationship with the others back in Earthland, I really do want a real relationship with someone who loves me for me." Issei smiled at his brother in all but blood as Issei patted his back. "Hey, that's why you got me to help you out. I'm happy for you, Vali. You've really changed since our 3-month trip. You're a lot more sociable now. Ha. Like you want to talk. You've changed too. Anyway, why are we talking about my love life? What's going on with you and the orc? I heard you finally got promoted to high class. I'm surprised they didn't give you ultimate class, since your power is that of a Mayu or even a super Mayu if you used your full power." Vali said as he knew Issei was stronger than he was, and the 5 seals on his arm kept his full power intact, so he didn't crush anyone within range of his aura. Vali and Issei were able to clash without any repercussions in Earthland, but now that they were back home, they had to be careful in using their full power, since they could be seen as major threats to the factions. Issei already knew this since he could see in the eyes of the Devil Council that they were afraid of him due to his performance in the Bale Peerage ratings game. "Well, the reason they didn't give me ultimate class is because they want to see what kind of leader I would become for my future peerage. Sure, I've never had a peerage before, but I don't mind since my popularity with the people of the underworld has skyrocketed due to me calling out the council on the live broadcast. In contrast, the council had no choice but to give in to the pressure, unless they wanted a rebellion with the people going up against them. Issei said as he chuckled at the memory of their faces. They had anger and frustration over a boy who was much younger than them and was able to make them bend to his demands. I'm starting to think you spent too much time with the old man and the lightning idiot, since you are starting to show their annoyance with politics and make them bend to your demands, Vali said as he could tell that Issei had spent a lot more time with Makarov, Dreyer and Laxus, since Issei had become a lot stronger and became more of a Diablo dragon. Oh, come on. I'm not that bad, and at least you're still keeping your shirt on even after hanging out with Natsu and Gray, especially since you did all that training to master your ice devil magic. Issei said as Vali looked at his chest to see that his shirt was still on, much to his relief, since he had developed the habit of losing his shirt due to his training to master ice devil magic. Heh. True. Anyway, how's your married life with Ravel now? It sucks that I had to miss the wedding due to me dealing with Cow's Brigade. Vali said that he was hoping to make it to Issei and Ravel's wedding, since he was happy for them, especially since he received an invite to the wedding. Unfortunately, due to the Cow's Brigade being secretive lately, the White Dragon Emperor had to investigate what they were doing. Well, being married to Ravel is an amazing experience, especially since Ravel may act shy around me, but man, she is a panther in the sheets, Issei said as Vali whistled at this before Issei asked the White Dragon Emperor. So what exactly is Cow's Brigade up to nowadays? We haven't seen much of them ever since we got back from our training trip. Issei said that he was surprised but happy that the Cow's Brigade didn't crash the wedding. I honestly don't know. Cow's Brigade has been working on something for a while now, but all I could get was that it was some strange magic that had even made Rizavam afraid of Cow, but I don't know much more than what I just told you. Vali said as Issei pondered this information before asking his friend. Do you think it might be something from Earthland? Issei asked, with Vali being shocked before shaking his head. No, but I do believe we should be concerned and wary of the upcoming days. Something tells me that we're in for a tough battle this time, Vali said before deciding to change the subject. However, now that business is done, I need to ask you for a really big favor. Oh? What's up? Issei asked as Vali was nervous before he asked for the favor. I need you to join me and Kuroka on a date in Kyoto. That's it? Do you need a wingman? What were you so nervous about? Of course, I'd be happy to help. Issei said as he placed his tea down and asked for the details. So, what's the problem? It's because the one in Kyoto is a special festival known as the Nine Tails Festival, where Yusaka and Kunu will be able to enjoy themselves, but the problem is that there are rumors in the grapevine that the Cow's Brigade will attack them. Kuroka is nervous since it's her first time being in charge of security at the festival, and she wants some extra help, so I suggested you. It's really important to Kuroka since that'll allow Yusaka to see that Kuroka is serious about her responsibilities due to Yusaka giving her a second chance after Kuroka kidnapped her. Vali explained that Issei knew that Kuroka could use some help with the festival, plus this would be a good time for Ravel and himself to enjoy Kyoto again and see the people. I'm in. I'll have to check with Ravel first, but I do like the invite. Issei said as Vali thanked Issei for the help. The two spent a bit more time at the cafe until they paid the bill and left as they went to get ready for the festival. Issei smiled as he walked down the streets of his hometown, happy that he was back home while waving at a few of the town's residents. During the past month, Issei and Ravel were married, and the two are getting adjusted to being a married couple, as well as Issei's role as a king, now that he has his own peerage set. Issei was glad that he could not only get the rank he deserved, but also fight Seirag Bale and catch up with his old friends. Issei even confessed to his parents about everything from the day he was killed by Rainer up to the most recent events. He was surprised to see that they already knew about his new life, especially after chatting with Azazel at the parent-teacher conference. Flashback. Wait, you knew this whole time how? Issei asked, shocked, as were the orc, who thought they were unaware of the supernatural world until Mickey giggled at their reaction. Well, we had our suspicions when something was up with you all leaving for so long about club activities, the orc moving into our home, the renovations, and also the new staff and members of your club, and so on. However, we saw that you were well, Issei, so we didn't ask or say anything, and continued to feign ignorance. Mickey said as Riaz was shocked by this before asking. But that doesn't explain how you knew about us being devils and such. This was answered by Goru, who decided to explain. Well, it was actually your teacher Azazel, who is a nice man when you get to know him, when we went to speak to Issei during the parent-teacher conference. He thought it would be best if we knew just what Issei had done and how much he's going through. Goru said as he placed a hand on Issei's head, and he then ruffled his hair like he did when Issei was a young boy. And we couldn't be more proud of you, Issei. You've grown into such a wonderful young man. Goro said before slinging an arm around Issei and giving him a knuckle sandwich on the head. Besides, how else would we be able to make it to the wedding between you and Ravel? Goro said as Ravel was blushing from the fact that she was still going to be married to Issei, while Mickey snickered at her husband before holding out a hand. By the way, dear. I won the bet. Mickey said as Goro grumbled before handing some money to his wife while she chuckled at her husband's face. Wait, did you guys bet on who I would marry? Issei asked as Mickey explained. Well, your father and I made a bet on who you'd marry first. I suggested either Asia or Ravel, since you seemed to have a better relationship with them than the other girls. At the same time, your father said that Akeno or Irina would have been your first wife. Mickey explained that Akeno, Asia and Irina were imagining themselves at a wedding in place of Ravel marrying Issei. Akeno would have gone with a Japanese wedding style, while Irina and Asia were blushing at the idea of a church wedding, with Michael as the priest of said wedding. Still, Issei was glad he didn't have to hide and lie to his parents anymore. As he hugged the two parents who were by his side and loved him for who he was, Issei was happy to make them proud of him. Then flashback. Issei made it to his home and entered it to see Ravel humming in the kitchen, listening to some music on her phone, before Issei had an idea to mess with his wife. Issei snuck behind her cautiously and wrapped his arms around her waist, which made Ravel stiffen up until Issei removed one of the earbuds and whispered, "Hello, my lovely phoenix. How are you doing?" Issei asked before he began nibbling on her neck, making Ravel try to stifle her laugh, until she laughed from the tickling as she stopped her lover's assault. Hey, now. No teasing me while I'm cooking. I don't want to burn down the house accidentally. Ravel said as she finished her cooking before turning around and kissing Issei's lips. So, how was your date with your boyfriend? Vali is doing well, and he invited us to the Nine Tails festival. Apparently, Kuroka is in charge of security and wants us there to join as both a wingman and extra security detail. Plus, it'll be a good night for us since I heard we could also visit the shrine in Kyoto, especially since I wanted to bring you sometime during a special event. Issei said as Ravel was shocked by this opportunity before smiling at the idea. Really? I've always wanted to visit Kyoto. I'd say we should go. Ravel said in excitement before seeing Issei's amused expression as she coughed into her fist. I meant to protect the innocent from harm and to ensure the safety of an ally. Issei chuckled at his wife before kissing her lips. Sure. Why don't we have some breakfast and chat about the festival? Issei said as he brought the food to the table. Ravel nodded and headed towards the table as well. The two began to chat about their plans for the day, while Issei also explained what Vali told him about the Cows Brigade. I'm worried about what they're up to, especially since Cao isn't the kind of guy who lies down and doesn't plan an attack. He's up to something. What is he planning? I don't know, but what I do know is that it can't be good. Issei said as Ravel placed a hand on his hands. Hey. Remember when you said we were a team? Ravel asked, which got Issei to nod in her direction. Ravel smiled in response. Then let me in, and trust me. I may not be as strong as you, but what I lack in power, I make up for with my brain. Besides, between the two of us, I'm the smart one. Issei chuckled as Ravel flicked his nose lightly. You're not wrong about that, Issei said as he continued to chat with Ravel about anything that interested them. Some of the other girls watched them with a bit of jealousy. Especially Ria's Gremory, who's been feeling very jealous of Ravel due to her wanting to be the one who married Issei, but deep down, her heart told her that she was unworthy of being the one to marry Issei after what she did to him. Issei was talking to them again and made time to hang out with them, but seeing Issei and Ravel as a married couple made a few of the girls, like Ria's, feel incredibly jealous at seeing the two of them married to one another. If I hadn't exploded like that and asked Issei about his pain, would I have married him instead? Ria's pondered, but she knew it was just wishful thinking. Nefarious. Why don't you come over and eat with us? Issei called out as Ria smiled and joined them at the table, as she was happy to be at least still involved in the life of the one she loved. However, little did they know that this was just the calm before the storm. The portal opened in an unknown location as a knight with crimson red hair walked out. She surveyed the area before pulling out a bell and ringing it, then nodded at the image she saw in the playing field. Issei was here, and so was Vali. It seems the spell worked, the crimson-haired knight said, as a scoff was heard from behind. Was there ever any doubt, Ezra? It would be best if you had some more faith in Altair's magic. After all, she surpasses many of the great mages because of her knowledge. The woman said as it was none other than Maria Yesta. She smiled while wearing her knight armor before two more people emerged from the portal. Yes. We can bicker like children if that is what you want, but we have a task at hand. We were sent here to warn Issei and Vali of the vision I saw and an ancient evil appearing in their world. Altair said as another woman emerged from the portal. Altair is right. We must find Issei and Vali to warn them of the danger they are about to face, Brandish said as she looked at Altair and nodded. The magician then pulled out a book and muttered a couple of words before the book's pages flew out as a small red and white dragon pointed them both in different directions. Well, need to split up. Ezra and I will follow the trail to Issei. You and Di Maria go to Vali. Well, be able to cover more ground that way. Brandish said as Altair nodded and took Di Maria with her before the god soul wielder yelled to Urza. Hey Ezra. Don't forget to kiss your dragon stud to tell the red-haired girl that he's the one who devoured your strawberry cake. Di Maria yelled as she ran as fast as she could from the angry slashes of an enraged Urza, while Brandish sighed in annoyance at the girl's foul language before Brandish used her magic to make her body a giant. She then grabbed Urza and walked away from Altair and Di Maria. The two groups are on missions to speak to their loved ones and warn them of the dangers they are about to face. Hopefully, they weren't too late. How's brigade? My brothers and sisters. Cao Cao shouted as he looked at his fellow heroes and smiled at their loyalty towards him. I know many of you have been wondering when we shall make our next move, and I will say that for the past month, I've been preparing for our next attack to be at the Yaokai faction, where there shall be a special festival that will be a very special day for Yusaka's daughter Kunu, so why don't we give her a special gift by taking her mother away from her permanently. The rest of the heroes cheered as they were looking forward to this, while Jean was nervously shifting her legs as she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong with the way Cao Cao acted ever since he returned with that damned book and locked himself away, experimenting with said magic, along with Rizavam, who she hasn't seen in a while as well. It has come to my attention that even with Cao's break and our sacred gears, we will never truly be able to combat the forces that the supernatural will throw our way. And after witnessing Issei Haidu's victory over the Bale Devil, it only seems fair that we evolve as Issei did, which means sacrificing something far more than our bodies. Cao Cao explained as he lifted a glass filled with some wine in the air. But first, a toast to the beginning of a new chapter in the hero faction's goals to save humanity, Cao Cao said as the others cheered and drank their glasses empty, except for one who didn't trust Cao Cao. Something is definitely wrong here, and I don't like it, Jean said. Georg felt the same, and he silently dumped his glass into a potted plant near him. Then, Jean looked up to see that the others around them began to groan and clench their stomachs. A massive aura began to envelop all of them, even Heracles. The members of the hero faction yelled in pain as if something was happening to them, before they were all slowly changing as their bodies transformed into something more demonic. What is this? Jean stuttered as she backed away from the crowd. Jean summoned a sword and readied herself for a fight. Cao Cao. What are you doing to them? You are turning them into demons? Cao Cao said as he interrupted her sentence. Yes. It became clear to me that after I was reborn, I was being held back by my human shell. But now that I have embraced this power, I'm thinking I should have tried to find the book years ago. And with this gift, the others will soon realize that they shall become better as well. But this goes against what the hero faction stands for. We're supposed to be saving humanity, not destroying it. Jean yelled as Georg joined her side. Sometimes one must make a sacrifice for the greater good, and this is that sacrifice. Cao Cao said as he smiled at his transformed comrades. And look at them now. They've been reborn under the gift I gave them. Cao Cao said as he looked almost proud as the demons began to roar, with Heracles being the largest one. He roared into the air and punched his fists together, creating a small shockwave before they all turned to Jean and Georg. We need to run. Georg shouted as he grabbed Jean and teleported them outside of the base. The demons roared and charged, trying to capture their friends and convert them to join them. Where can we even run to? There's nowhere we can hide from Cao Cao. Oh yes, there is. Hang on. Georg shouted as he chanted a spell that formed a yellow bubble shield around them, and some of the demons began to get closer to them until Georg shouted. Now. The bright light covered the area as the two vanished out of sight, making the demons roar in rage at their comrades for running away and betraying their group until Cao Cao walked towards them. Don't worry about them. They'll soon realize that resistance is futile and return to join us. For now, it's time to help you all become accustomed to your powers and new forms, which means it's time to prepare for war. Cao Cao said, and the demons around him roared and cheered. They were more than happy to train if that meant sooner or later they'd paint the world red with the blood of the supernatural world. Meanwhile, with Issei and company. Issei and Ravel were making preparations for their date at the festival when a massive aura appeared on the rooftop of the Haidu residence. The orc headed to the rooftop and looked to see Jean and Georg coughing a bit of blood. Georg looked at the orc and chuckled. I guess this is the part where I surrender, yes. Georg said as Issei put away his ice devil's chill before grabbing Georg and pinning him to the door of the rooftop. Give me a damn good reason not to drop you and Jean from the rooftop, Issei said as Georg coughed as he spoke to Issei. Because you and the others won't be ready for what's coming, Georg said as Issei looked at the magician's eyes before he called Asia over. Asia. Make sure these two don't die. Akeno. Zenobia. Kiba. Take them to the holding cell. Issei ordered as the four did as they were ordered until Issei looked at Riaz and Irina. Call Michael and Serziches, as well as Azazel. Tell them it's about Georg and Jean. They seem to have some valuable information. I'll leave it to you. Issei said as he began to walk away. Riaz stopped him. Whoa there. And where do you think you are going? That's simple. Ravel and I have a date with the Yaokai faction later this week, and I'm taking Ravel out for some shopping and a nice dinner before the festival. Issei said as he left the rooftop with Ravel, who seemed to be happy that Issei was still on for their shopping date. Riaz stuttered about what had just happened before her until Irina patted her back. It's okay, Riaz. It just looks like Issei has other priorities now. He still cares for the war, but he did make a deal to assist the Yaokai faction with the security at the festival. Irina said as Riaz sighed but nodded. I know, but I was hoping he would be part of the meeting with me, like back in the peace conference and such, Riaz said. She felt a tad bit lonely until Irina patted her back some more as the two began to contact Michael, Serziches, and Azazel. Their lives were about to get hectic some more. A few hours later. So you mean to tell me Cao Cao transformed the entire hero faction into a demonic army and is planning on attacking the festival at the Yaokai faction? Riaz asked Georg as he gave a simple nod. Yes. Cao Cao has completely lost it, and I do believe that he will only desire to rebuild the world in his image once he defeats the Biblical Alliance and the Dragon Emperors. That's what drove Cao Cao to find that book when I warned him of the consequences that came with using such power. Georg said as Riaz groaned while listening to Georg for the past hour, which would have been more bearable had Issei been there at her side like he usually was during the other meetings. It doesn't matter what you say because it doesn't change the fact that you literally released a powerful and dangerous magic into our world once again. Riaz shouted as Georg groaned as he replied to her. That doesn't have to mean you got to rub it in my face. And I'm sorry, but Jean and I were busy trying to escape, otherwise, we would have brought you a peace offering. Georg said sarcastically. Riaz stomped out of the room, and then Georg looked at Asia and asked. Trouble in paradise with the Red Dragon Emperor since he's married to the Phoenix heiress and not her? Georg asked as Asia stopped her healing on Jean before turning to him and asked. How did you know? Just because we weren't there doesn't mean we didn't hear about it. The grapevine carried a lot of gossip, so it was easy to piece together what was true and what wasn't true. Georg said as he sat up in his bed before cracking his neck. Also, you are probably wondering why I'm not trying to escape, and you answer that I don't have anywhere to go. The hero faction is destroyed and corrupted because Cao Cao and Rizavam Lucifer are either missing or dead, meaning there's no point in fighting anymore. I'll take my punishment as a man, but knowing Jean, she'll try to fight back, since her pride wouldn't accept her being saved by the same faction she's been trying to destroy and betraying the angels. Georg said as he manifested a magic aura on his body, but groaned as he let his body rest to recover from his injuries. Asia was surprised by this before Georg spoke to her. I can tell you probably did something to strain your relationship with him, so if you want to get back on his loving side, then you have to show him that you are serious about really wanting to be in a relationship with him, Georg said as Asia pouted and replied. And what makes you such an expert on love? Well, unlike you, I know how to actually not screw up my relationships because I was so blind I didn't even see his pain or the fact he wasn't sure if you really loved him. Not that I blame him. I mean, it's not like he saved you from death countless times, gave you a place in his family after your parents abandoned you when you were just an infant, and even nearly died in Juggernaut Drive because you were weak and got captured by Ajuka's rapist of a brother. Honestly, I wouldn't want a woman who was such a crybaby and weak that all she can do is heal me when I'm injured after saving her. Georg said as Asia slammed her hands on the bed and glared at him as best she could, but the magic user merely laughed at the attempt and pushed her away with his magic. Oh, please. You don't scare me. You are the weakest link in the Gremory peerage, and if it weren't for Issei, you would still be dead. It must irritate him having to pretend to put up with a girl who's so weak that all she does is get captured like some damsel in distress. And blame him for choosing to marry Ravel over you, since she's at least more competent than you and most of the other girls. Georg said as Asia glared at the magic user and wanted to punch him, but all she would do was prove him right. I don't have to hear this from you, Asia said as she stomped out of the room before Georg called out to her. Talk to him and become stronger. That's the only way you'll be able to stay by his side, otherwise, someone else will take your spot in his heart and replace you. Georg said, and Asia felt her heart freeze at this. Then she remembered the many times Issei had saved her in the past and suffered while all she did was cry and heal him after the fight was over. Is he right? Have I been a burden to Issei the whole time? Asia pondered as she looked back when Issei saved her all the time and the times that Issei comforted her when she was sad or angry about something. Flashback. A month ago. Asia stood outside Issei's bedroom door, clutching the small mouse plushie Issei had won for her on their first date. She knocked on the door and Issei emerged and looked down at her in surprise. "Asia, what are you doing here?" Issei asked. He didn't hate the former nun, but he wondered why she was in front of his room before she responded. I had a nightmare, and I know our relationship isn't the same as before, but I still wanted to." Asia stuttered before Issei gently patted her head. "Asia. Just because our relationship isn't the same as before doesn't mean I don't want you around anymore. I care about you, Asia, and a small part of my heart still does want to see you happy, so if you ever need comfort, don't hesitate to reach out to me." Issei said as he looked tired but was still willing to listen and comfort Asia before Asia thanked him and fell asleep in his arms, which made Ravel smile at the sight of her husband, since she knew that Issei still cared for them and wanted to help them, but still kept his heart a bit closed off from any advances, like when Riaz tried to seduce him with outfits and foreplay, which annoyed Ravel. Still, she kept it under wraps before releasing her rage into her baking. Then flashback. Asia thought back as she gripped her left hand with her right one, looking at her rings. She found it quite ironic that her rings were meant to heal the wounds of anyone Asia wished to, yet she couldn't heal the wound she inflicted on his heart. He's right about me. I've been responsible for most of Issei's pain. If I were strong like Zenobia, then maybe I could be of more use to Issei, rather than just being a burden to him, Asia said to herself, while Zenobia was struggling after Issei left for his training. Zenobia was in the training arena and saw that no one else was around before summoning Durandal. Still, instead of easily lifting the sword like she always did, the sword felt really heavy as it fell to the ground, its chains wrapped around its blade and handle. "I don't blame you for rejecting me, since these past 3 months have proven that I'm far from worthy," Zenobia said as she looked at the sword that rejected her and recalled how the sword was so powerful, and yet she, out of many other candidates, was able to wield its power. However, after Issei left for his training, the sword began to reject her after seeing her soul and training waver before it allowed her to use its power one last time in the Battle of Baal Peerage. Afterward, the sword remained in its seal, not allowing Zenobia to use its power after the battle, which really hurt the warrior's pride, as she knew that the sword wasn't just a hunk of metal, but a blade that chose if its wielder was worthy of using its power. "I'm supposed to be a knight, a fucking knight. And even then, I didn't have the speed to get to Issei to help him against his battle against that damned descendant of Beelzebub." Zenobia then turned to her mirror and looked at Asia in her thoughts before she gritted her teeth. "Asia is much faster than me, even though she isn't a knight. She is a bishop, one who is known for healing others. If Asia had been honed for battle like me, she could have easily saved Issei before I could even attempt to do so," Zenobia said as she closed her eyes and imagined their roles swapped, with Asia as a warrior more competent than her in battle, fighting alongside Issei. At the same time, she was a healer and supported in the rear while watching them from behind, which made Zenobia think of an interesting idea. Maybe if Asia and I had exchanged roles, then maybe our relationship with Issei would have been stronger and we could have helped him better before his training, Zenobia said as she looked back at her sword before pondering about Asia using the sword better than she could, since, after all, Zenobia was an Amazon woman who was a fool thinking she, herself, deserved to be with Issei after what she did to him and didn't even realize his feelings before it was too late. "I'm a fool," Zenobia said as she pulled Durandal back into its sealed space before the knight left the arena on a mission to find Asia Argento. Meanwhile, the other girls were feeling their regrets now that they could tell that Issei truly had changed for the better, but their relationship with him was still strained. Riaz was in her room, looking at a special photo that she held close to her. It was the photo of her peerage when Issei defeated Rizer, and they had a small party to celebrate Issei's victory. The photo was special since that was the beginning of their lives changing, and it was all thanks to Issei. "You really changed my life for the better, and I'm grateful for all you've given me, Issei," Riaz said as she looked back on her accomplishments. After seeing her actions and contributions and all they'd done together, Riaz realized that she was the weakest link in their group, and Riaz was supposed to be the king, the leader of the peerage. However, it was really Issei who was responsible for her peerage and becoming this powerful. Riaz had always had exceptional luck when it came to finding her first 3 peerage members, but she realized that compared to her old self, she never actually tried to help them with their past issues. Sure, she gave them a roof over their heads, a place to learn and adapt to a new life, and a family, but in the end, she never truly helped them. Until Issei appeared and changed her whole world by helping each of them grow as people. Riaz was jealous of Issei's unique ability to understand others and communicate with them, as well as help them on an emotional level. It made her feel like she disappointed not just her family, but herself, since they were becoming a real team while Riaz was doing the same tricks. Issei was even responsible for helping Gasper come out of his shell, Zenobia joining her peerage, and even Asia for having a special relationship with the Red Dragon Emperor. Riaz attempted to help her team before the battle with Sayrag Bale's peerage members, but failed them as well. In the end, Issei is the one who saved them and brought them victory, as well as calling out the council, and even ranked up to the high class, making him gain his peerage pieces, but he had yet to trade for Asia or Zenobia. And ever since the last month, I've been trying to fix my relationship with him, but no matter what I do, I can't seem to get any alone time with him, Riaz said as she recalled that the past month was not easy for Riaz, since she was subjected to seeing Issei and Ravel as a loving married couple, Roswis and Issei bonding when they trained in the training area. Gasper and Issei hanging out and having some weird moments with the Grimoire heiress, thinking Gasper had feelings for Issei due to the small boy cuddling and acting more like a girl around Issei, Vali coming to spar with Issei as well, since the two seemed to enjoy going all out together. Finally, Kiba was able to restore their brotherhood and make it even stronger due to Issei helping Kiba with his swordsmanship and even encouraging him to start dating Tsubaki Shinra after getting Sona's permission, of course. Leaving her with no chance to find Issei alone and even ask him on a hangout date. What's it going to take to spend some time with Issei? Riaz pouted. Then, there was a knock on the door. Riaz opened the door and her eyes widened. The visitor was none other than Ravel. The princess looked at Riaz with a stoic expression. Riaz, a little bird told me you've been feeling lonely. Is it because Issei no longer wishes for your company and wants my warmth instead? Ravel said with a smug smile as Riaz clenched her fists a bit before Ravel continued. What did you expect? You ask him out on a few dates, then confess your feelings to him before apologizing to him about what a bitch you were and hope you took you back. This isn't some romance novel. He loved you and moved mountains for you, but what you and the girl said shattered his heart. He may have forgiven you for what you did to him, but I haven't, and I'll make sure you don't get a chance to talk to him about your feelings unless I know you are actually serious about wanting to make amends with him. Ravel said as Riaz slammed her hands on the table and yelled at her. And how is that fair to Issei? Because when I look at you, Riaz Grimoire, I can tell you yearn for the old Issei, the one who was a simple yes man and hung on to your every word. You had your chance to be with him, but you had a possessive attitude whenever he was talking to another one of the girls, even though you allowed his harem plan and agreed to let Issei spend time with the girls. I love him, and I know that others feel the same way, which is why I let Asia and Zenobia spend time with him as well as Akeno, since I know they regretted their actions and wish to make amends with him. So until you fix your attitude, then I won't allow you to be near him. Ravel said as she left Riaz alone. The Grimoire heiress didn't say anything as she laid her head down on her desk and let the tears fall from her eyes. She's right about me. I still haven't changed. I really did that to him. All because I was a possessive bitch who only desired to keep him for myself. I really am a selfish woman. Riaz said as she clenched her fists before shaking her head. If I'm going to prove to Ravel that I'm willing to change, then I have to change as well to prove to myself that I won't stay in the past, Riaz said, wiping her tears. She pulled out her phone and texted someone who she knew could help her get stronger. Her mother. Riaz patiently waited for a moment before the phone was picked up on the other end. Riaz. Is something wrong, sweetie? No, Mom, but can I ask for a favor? Of course. What do you need? Is it possible that the offer to train under you is still open? Riaz asked as she was taking the first step into bettering herself. So this is Issei's hometown. It has a nice homely feeling to it, like our home back at Earthland. Urza Scarlet said as she looked at the town coming in the distance. Indeed. The town isn't as large as our home in Earthland, but it seems to be a comfortable place, similar to where Issei said he grew up. Brandish said. The Nation Destroyer was amazed by the small town the Red Dragon Emperor grew up in before the two entered the town and drew a lot of attention to themselves due to their attire, since it's not every day you see a person dress up as a knight and a woman who literally looks like she from a nightclub before Brandish begins to notice the people staring at them. We won't be able to get anywhere finding Issei. I wish it were easy to track him like back in Earthland. Brandish said as Urza's eyes widened before recalling her strategy when lost. Of course. I know how to find Issei. Ezra shouted as she then ran towards a random student and grabbed them by the shirt. The Haidu household. Where is it? What? Bonk. You there? Ezra shouted, and the knocked-out schoolgirl companion shivered in fear. Brandish sighed, knowing Urza's way of asking directions would have the opposite effect. Ezra. That isn't going to work. It didn't work back in Earthland, so why would it work here? Brandish asked as Urza continued to knock out a few more until a voice stopped her. You're looking for Issei, right? Azazel asked, recognizing the women from the stories Issei told him about when the governor asked about the other world the dragon emperors were in for the training. Of course. Thank you for being so helpful, good sir. Urza said while Brandish narrowed her eyes at Azazel before walking towards him with a questioning look as she stopped in front of him. Azazel was amazed by the green-haired girl's beauty until Brandish asked a question that caught him off guard. You're Issei's grandfather, right? The perverted old man who hasn't had a date in years? Brandish asked, hitting Azazel right in the heart with her question before the fallen governor stiffly nodded, a bit of blood leaving his mouth from the critical hit. Why yes. And you must be Brandish and Urza Scarlet, correct? Azazel asked, knowing that the two were definitely the same people that Issei described. Brandish is a nice woman who's blunt when it comes to asking questions about a person, so be prepared for a critical hit to the heart. Urza, on the other hand, is sociable, but she has quirks that make her riot, such as the time when she asked for directions from passengers. Issei definitely wasn't wrong when describing them, although I'm surprised they didn't bother changing clothes, since one can equip clothes, and the other is a queen, right? Azazel asked himself before Urza clasped Azazel's hands and replied to his earlier question. Yes. Take us to him, please. I wish to be reunited with my husband. Ezra declared with no shame, and Brandish sighed at Urza's lack of tact when speaking. What my idiot friend here is saying is that we're looking for Issei, since we wish to reunite with him. Can you please take us to him? Brandish asked with her innocent face, which made Azazel blush at the sight before dumbly nodding his head. Oh of course. Follow me. Azazel said, giggling to himself as he kept that memory locked up in his mind, while Brandish smiled to herself, proud to use the technique Lucy taught her to good use. Plus, it was how I was able to get Issei into bed with me, along with Ezra. Man, it was a wonderful night. Brandish said in her mind while her left hand rubbed her bosom, recalling the mark that her lover and partner placed on her after they made love that night under the moonlight in their bed. Urza saw what Brandish was doing and blushed so much her face almost became the same color as her hair, recalling the night she felt her pride was damaged, but loved when Issei and Brandish were showering her in so much love she became putty in both of their hands. Ezra didn't walk well after that night, but she felt so happy that she ignored anyone asking her questions about that night while enjoying her strawberry cake that day. Brandish saw Urza reminiscing and smiled to herself as she let Urza catch up to them before Brandish decided to tease Urza by smacking her rear. This caused Urza to yell, which she then yelled at Brandish, who was smirking at the scarlet-faced knight. What the hell are you doing? I'm just seeing how juicy your cake is, since I'm thinking of a wonderful treat for Issei after we reunite with him. Maybe we can ask him to help with frosting it. Would you like that, Ezra? Or maybe double-layered? Brandish asked as she pepper-kissed Ezra's neck, making the knight struggle to stand. She felt her weak spot being hit by the perverted girl, awakened her darker side when Issei and Brandish became very close. Issei may have been a pervert at first and controlled his urges now, but Brandish was a closet sadist who loved to play with Urza when it came to teasing her. Issei teased her a bit too, just for fun's sake, but when the two were working together to gang up on her then, Urza stood no chance as she was weak to the flirtations and affection that came with their teasing. Why yes. Ezra moaned, feeling very weak under the Nation Destroyer's kisses, hitting her sensitive spot until Azazel broke the mood. Excuse me, but we're here, Azazel said, making Brandish pout, but give in as she left Urza alone, who was silently thanking the governor for saving her from Brandish's teasing for now. If there was one thing Urza knew about Brandish, it was that she loved to conquer and defeat those she loved in the sack, and the only one who defeated her was Issei Haidu himself. Wonderful. I appreciate your help, Brandish said with a smile, although Ezra knew the pervert was secretly enjoying teasing her and weakening her with her evil magic. Azazel then knocked on the door of the mansion, which still shocked Urza, except for Brandish, since she was used to seeing large mansions back in Earthland. The door was then opened by Issei Haidu, who was dressed up in a kimono before his eyes widened as he saw Brandish smiling at him, while Urza ran past the two and hugged Issei so hard his back popped, but the Redeed Knight seemed to be happy. It's really you. In the flesh. Ezra said with happy tears before kissing Issei's lips, shocking Issei before he reciprocated the kiss and wrapped his arms around Urza's waist, bringing them closer until the kiss ended with the two looking at each other with happiness in their eyes, as if they were lovers being reunited. Hello, my Crimson Knight. Hello, my Crimson King. The two smiled at the nicknames they had made for each other since back at Fairy Tale, even before they dated. Issei teased Urza with the nickname Crimson Knight after they worked together on so many missions, while Urza gave Issei the nickname Crimson King after he took charge on many missions, which earned her respect and love. And is that our lover behind you as well, my knight? Issei asked, smirking at Brandish before Urza moaned at the thought of recreating that night, making her blush heavily. It also didn't help that Brandish smiled like a Cheshire cat that got the cream. Oh, I don't know, Issei. I think Urza might have gained some more junk in the trunk after she binged on her sweets when you and Vali left. Brandish said, making Urza embarrassed by the comment since it was true that Issei made sure Urza didn't eat too many sweets since the knight had a weakness for any sweet that had strawberries on it. Oh, then we might have to do some workout sessions with her again, like last time. Issei said, making Urza blush as she recalled their workout that surprisingly helped her lose the fat on her stomach, but her butt had become very popular with her lovers smacking it a lot. See, can we please not do this in public, Urza said, hoping to salvage what pride she had left before Issei and Brandish laughed as they stopped their teasing. Okay. You win, Issei said before kissing her cheek and cupping the other side with a smile on his lips. For now, that is. Azazel stifled his laugh as he wished he had his phone to record this before Issei invited the trio inside the mansion, which was an amazing sight for the Grimoire peerage, except Ravel, who seemed to have her wings out and blush at the idea of getting in between Issei and the other girls to have an orgy. After the wedding, Issei and Ravel became one on their honeymoon. Still, their honeymoon unlocked Ravel's perverted side that was only for the sheets, since she loved the idea of having another girl in the sack, since she loved the idea of dominating them. At the same time, Issei rammed them from behind, causing Ravel to get so heated up that her flames ignited to respond to her imagination. So this is the yummy night you told me about along with Brandish? Ravel asked, with Issei nodding while Brandish smiled at Ravel, who knew that Ravel was like her in that way. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Phoenix. Sorry for missing the wedding. Oh, it is fine, Miss Brandish. I'm sure Issei and I can give you the play-by-play tonight when it's just the four of us. Ravel said as she used her wings to bring Issei close to her before Issei stopped her. Calm down, my Phoenix Queen. Business first before pleasure, Issei said, with Ravel pouting a bit but not minding, since she could be professional before indulging in her nightly activities with her husband. Of course, my love, Ravel said before looking at both Brandish and Urza as she then curtsied to introduce herself. It's a pleasure to finally meet you both. My name is Ravel Phoenix Haidu. Bishop of Issei Haidu, my king and his wife. Brandish smiled at the introduction before responding. And I am Brandish 1/4 the Nation Destroyer. And I am Urza Scarlet. It's an honor to meet you all finally. Issei and Vali told us a lot about this world when they were back in Earthland with us. Urza said before Issei smiled at her and sat on the couch with Ravel on his lap, while Brandish 1/4 and Ezra sat on his left and right side, with Brandish being comfortable with this, before Riaz and the others sat across from the four and asked Issei, since he would give them the best answers. So, are you dating them both, or are you friends? Azazel asked and responded with Issei smiling. Dating? I was hoping that one day I would be able to go back in between worlds to be with them, but I was afraid since we were told it was risky going back to another world, so Vali and I said our goodbyes, not knowing if we would ever see them again, which begs the question. How are you both here? We thought after the war there would be many people who needed help. Issei asked before Urza took over the response to the question. After taking care of the damage and body count when the war ended, Brandish and I tried to move on, but it wasn't easy, since you and Vali made such a deep impact on all our lives, especially since I really wished to marry you in Earthland, but the fact that you and Vali would have to return scared me from making that decision, so I bit my tongue and held the question in my heart. But that still didn't explain how you both got to my world. That was actually due to a certain moon dragon learning how to open a portal between our worlds. There's more to it than that, isn't there? Brandish sighed as she took over the conversation. The moon dragon told us that should we go to your world, we wouldn't be able to return since it would have been risky, even though you and Vali had to wait for a chance to return home. But what about Fairy Tail and your friends? Surely you didn't leave without saying goodbye. Issei asked before Urza hugged Issei and kissed his lips quickly. She then placed her head on his left shoulder. Issei, you must understand that while it did hurt leaving them after we said our goodbyes, my heart was happy since I wanted to be with you and fight by your side in not just the war back home, but also be your wife. That's why I made a promise to myself that I would have no regrets or hesitate in doing this, Ezra said as she got on one knee and pulled out a ring before speaking to him. Issei Haidu, would you marry me and make me the happiest woman in the world? Ezra asked before Issei recalled seeing that ring at a festival the two attended during their vacation days. Only if you're willing to accept me and my quirks too. Well, someone has to make sure you don't get into trouble. Issei and Urza laughed and looked at each other with love. Issei nodded and pulled out a ring that matched the one Urza had. They placed the rings on each other, making Azazel cry. At the same time, Brandish smiled at Urza, finally saying the question that had been in her heart. And now we must begin the marriage in bed. Urza said, with Riaz stopping them. Hold on. What do you mean marriage in bed? Shouldn't there be a ceremony or something? Oh, we'll take a different approach to dragon law since if a couple wishes to be married, then they must mark each other while becoming one. It's a ritual to make sure that no other dragon tries to steal their lover who holds their heart. Issei said as he recalled the dragon law in Earthland and saw the similarities between it and the dragon law in his world. He's not wrong. Vali told me the same thing when he read about it when learning more about dragons. Plus, Ravel has her mark but doesn't show it unless Issei's around, right? Azazel asked, with Ravel smirking at Azazel before tapping her nose and her bust. No peeking, Ravel said with a teasing look in her eyes, while Issei wrapped an arm around her protectively, making Brandish smile at the sight of her lover. And since you're here, I actually wanted to ask you two something important, but that'll be for a later time. However, I know you two didn't come alone since Ezra's terrible sense of direction, well Brandish was unaware of the world, so who came with you? Issei asked. Oh, Vali's girlfriend and librarian. The two went to Vali, where he's probably getting a lap pillow from Di Maria, while Altair is fascinated with new knowledge in another world. She's always been a sucker for libraries. Brandish said, recalling the librarian and how she got stuck reading for hours, forgetting to eat and sleep until Vali coaxed her to bed to rest and eat, along with socializing with others. Heh. I'm so going to tease Vali when I see those two again. Issei said while Brandish giggled at the image since she recalled Issei and Vali's bromance back in Earthland before she looked at Ravel and asked. So, do Issei and Vali still act like they are married? Oh yeah. Issei and Vali's bromance is strong and definitely wholesome, that's for sure. Ravel said, knowing that Ravel was sort of Issei's brother per second wife, which led to Azazel and Kuroka laughing their ass off while Vali groaned at the title but didn't deny it, making them laugh even harder. Okay. We can tease Vali later, but there must have been another reason, isn't there? Issei asked, making Brandish sigh before nodding his head. You're correct. Altair, Celine, and Carla see a vision that there is dangerous magic in your world. For you to see, the magic that they see is more demonic than the ones that Zareth made when he used his magic. The magic in your world is far darker than Zareth's power and the demons we face. It is on par with Acnologia. Brandish explained as Issei's eyes widened before recalling what Asia told him about the magic that Cao Cao was seeking before he became some demon. Tell me, does this magic happen to come from a book? Yes. What else happened in the vision? Armageddon. Barely any survivors. Issei clenched his fists at the description of the vision before speaking to her. Alright then. Next time I see Cao Cao, I'll do what I should have done when I saw him last time. And what might that be? Brandish asked. Kill him, Issei said. Brandish could tell that Issei was serious about this since, from what she was told about Cao Cao, the man was a narcissist who believed he was a hero to save the world, but all the hero did was kill more and more innocent people, actually trying to save anyone. And that's why we're here. To help you end this nightmare before the vision becomes true. Urza said this time as she wished to protect her future with Issei at her side, making him smile at the thought of working with his comrades again. Alright then. We'll have to meet up with Vali at the festival this weekend. Plus, that'll be a good chance for you both to get to know the town and meet Yasaka and sweet little Kunu. Kunu is a lot like Wendy, given her personality and how she tries to act mature, but is a cute little cinnamon roll. Issei said in joy, as he couldn't wait to introduce both Brandish and Urza to Kunu, since the former was a fan of cute things, while Urza liked kids, especially after spending a lot of time with Wendy. Although I do hope Vali's doing okay once he hears the news. Issei said, not noticing the absence of a certain nun and knight before a blue blur left the room without being seen, heading back to its master. So you mean to tell me that magic from Earthland ended up here? How? Vali asked while resting his head on Di Maria's lap, who smiled at the fact she beat Vali's ass again. Altair nodded in response before explaining to him, I believe that when you and Issei returned to your world, there was still a rift between our worlds, leading us to believe that the magic that this Cao Cao found must have come from the rift and somehow ended up in hell all this time. Luckily, we're here to help and warn your comrades of the dangers of this magic. I'm glad to see you both again, and I would love to tell them, but I wish to properly introduce you to the team, since I have missed you both. Truly, I have. Vali said, making Di Maria smirk at Vali before replying to him. Well, why don't we have some fun with the cat and make her our little pussy cat? Di Maria said before receiving a light tap on her forehead from Vali, narrowing his eyes at her. I wish to build a relationship with her naturally instead of just sex. That's rich since you and Altair were married twice since you two had so much fun in that time dimension, fucking each other like rabbits in here, Di Maria said, causing Altair and Vali to blush since they had done the deed. Still, the god soul user was a cheeky girl like Brandish who loved to tease her lovers in the sack. I don't know what you're talking about. Altair stammered, trying not to recall the love they shared in that timeless dimension when the two gave each other their first time and swore not to tell the cheeky Amazon since she wanted to get in on the fun as well. Hiroka, on the sidelines, was deeply amused by this as she ate some popcorn, while Biku cried tears of joy for his friend finally getting laid. Arthur was fanning LaFay due to the poor girl passing out as the image of Vali actually having sex with a woman and the words Di Maria used made her imagination run wild. Albion laughed his ass off in the divine dividing gear while being amused by Vali, wanting to not confess to the god soul user's relentless teasing, since Albion was grateful for Issei helping Vali open up to others. In contrast, Vali helped Issei become more of a warrior and dragon. Oh, if only Issei were here. He would give you a thumbs up and continue to mess with you as well, but don't worry, I won't tell your work husband. Issei is not my work husband. Oh, please. You two have such a bromance that the girls of your harem actually thought you wanted to ask him out back in Earthland until you said you were both into women. Though I do believe that pretty boy almost tricked you. Do not bring that embarrassing moment back, please. I still get the urge to throw up when that memory comes back. Vali said while Di Maria laughed her ass off so much she almost passed out while Altair comforted her husband to put him at ease. SHH. There. Altair said, placing Vali's head in her lap before running a hand through his hair, causing Vali to relax and enjoy the warmth of Altair until he fell asleep on said lap, making Altair smile at his expression before taking his lips in a chaste kiss. Don't worry, my love. I'll always make sure you're safe and loved. Altair said before promising that if Rizavam ever tried to touch Vali, she would punish him for putting her through hell and back. And Rizavam wouldn't live to tell the tale once she was done with him. Meanwhile, with a certain Nun night. Are you sure you want to do this, Asia? Shouldn't we talk to Riaz about this first before doing this? Zenobia asked, which made Asia sigh before speaking to her friend. Zenobia. For too long, both of us thought we would be better suited to each other's roles, so why not do this? The kinks have been worked out on my plan, and this spell will allow us both to not only become new people, but also help Issei in the upcoming battle, since if what Rasei overheard was true, then Issei will need all of the help he can get. Asia said, confident her plan would work since she worked out the bugs with the device that killed her when the Fallen captured her. Zenobia was still nervous about this before Asia placed a hand on her shoulder and continued. Plus, think about how this will benefit us both. It's a fresh start and a way for us to rebuild ourselves. What do you say? Asia asked, with Zenobia pondering about possibly changing herself to better herself before sighing. Okay, deal, but on the condition that we tell Issei about what we've done afterward. Deal. Asia said that before connecting their bodies to the Sacred Gear Extractor 2.0, they had a 100% chance of not killing the target. It began to activate it as both girls felt their souls leave their bodies before they began to swap with the extractor, ensuring that the process was going smoothly before the process ended with both Asia and Zenovia's bodies slowly groaning as they began to wake up. It worked. Zenobia cheered as she summoned her rings before smiling at the power at her fingertips, literally. Asia was wielding X-Urandal with ease as she took a few practice swings, and it surprisingly came easy to her. Whoa. It's as if the sword is guiding me at the same time when I swing him. Asia said, looking at her reflection in the sword steel before smiling at her new self. Let's go tell them, Zenobia said before the two left. They couldn't wait to tell them about what they'd done and were ready to prove themselves to not just Issei but themselves that they would be able to help him and stand by his side. I am amazed by how large the supernatural world is, and all this knowledge is here, yet others don't wish to explore it all, Altair shouted as she read a new book she had borrowed from Azazel's library. Altair enjoyed the book immensely due to her love of literature. After Vali introduced Altair to the many books in the Haidu library and Grigori's library, Altair took off so fast, like a child in a candy store. Altair loved libraries because they were a place of peace, where she could enjoy some silence with a cup of her favorite tea or coffee, while reading a new book that piqued her interest. Romance was a bit of a complicated subject for Altair, so when she asked Issei for some advice on romance, let's say that Altair took so many notes that she had a thick file. She used to go on many dates with Vali back in Earthland, and now she can use her plans should she ever meet Vali again in his world. I told you she'd rush to the books like back in Earthland, Di Maria said, holding Vali in a thigh hold before Vali broke free and put her in a chokehold, causing her to concede defeat. Indeed. By the way, I'm glad you and Altair are getting along with the others, but I am curious if the others might show up. Vali said that he had suspicions that some of the others he knew would show up in his world. Oh? Does a certain emperor miss his little pyromaniac, who was also his stalker? She wasn't that bad. Di Maria held in her laugh, recalling how Issei told her about Flair sneaking into Vali's room at night and sometimes even snuggling with him while he was sleeping in his bed. Whatever you say, Vali, Di Maria said before asking Vali a question. Say Vali, now that you know the reason we're here, how are we going to handle this cow guy? Vali sighed while sitting down before replying to her. Well, unfortunately, we already checked their old hideouts, and they've been abandoned or destroyed. I guess that Cao Cao is hiding to avoid detection, so he can get adjusted to his new body and powers. If what Issei sent me in the report was true, then Cao Cao has a power that will make him a definite threat, but I wonder if the true Longinus will still even accept him now that he's becoming more of a demon than a human. Vali knew the true Longinus would only allow the wielder to continue to use it if they could continue carrying its will. However, given Cao Cao's personality and his lust for power, it's a surprise that the true Longinus has been with him for this long. So when is this festival that the kitty cat is going to be in charge of? I'm actually interested in seeing what a festival is like in this world and if there will be some good food and sake. Maria shouted due to the fact that the god soul user and Kana from Fairy Tail were large fans of sake and wine, which led to the two of them becoming drinking buddies and trying out many different types of wine, beer, and sake when there was a good type that piqued their interest. This also led to Vali and Issei having to control their gluttonous nature when the two were in the mood for a lot of drinks. I'm starting to be worried for your liver again, since you and Kana continue to amaze me how you drink so much and don't get ill from how much you drink, especially since you get drunk faster than Kana. Vali said since he recalled drunk Maria from the nights that the white dragon had to carry Maria back to his bed, which made the god soul user release her lustful side since many times she's invited him to bed to make some demigods to rule the world they'd conquer. Why is it you never tell me what I did when I was drunk? Maria asked, which made Altier hide her laughter since she'd also been invited to bed by drunk Maria with Vali to make more powerful demigods which amused both parties. You did very well picking a wonderful woman to date, Vali. I want to ask, however, if it's true that you were a Chunibyo back in your youth. Altier asked, making Vali freeze for a moment while Maria laughed her ass off since she recalled meeting Vali's big sister, Lavinia, who was shocked to see that her little brother had not only become a man, but also had a harem of his own. Her reaction was priceless. Flashback. I'm so happy my little brother isn't going to die a hermit. Lavinia shouted while she hugged her little brother, much to his embarrassment and the girl's amusement. Oh my goodness, baby Vali is so cute. Kuroka said while gushing over the photos of Vali as a kid, which made the White Dragon Emperor beg for death to take him now. You have my permission to kill me, Vali said. Oh, I even have some pics of Arthur from when his mother washed him. Morgan said, joining in the conversation while Arthur joined Vali, awaiting death to claim them both. Please kill me now, Arthur said while Biku looked the photos over and replied to the depressed guys. What's the big deal? I'll admit that as a kid, I had a cute butt that the ladies liked to pinch. I got used to it when my old man told me it was a compliment from the woman. Biku said, which made Vali and Arthur glare at him before Kuroka gasped. Is this middle school syndrome? Vali Kuroka asked, making the fairy tale girls see Vali dressed up as an edgy character. Lavinia smiled at the blackmail, while Vali felt like his grave just got deeper. Funny, you should mention that since Vali was a very adventurous child, that was a Chunibyo. He also explored his other side, Lavinia said before revealing a girl with silver hair standing next to Lavinia. In contrast, the girls gushed over the girl before Maria asked. So, who's the chick next to you? Lavinia smiled with a wide grin, which made Vali beg for God to take his life then and there. It's Valerie Lucifer. Isn't Vali's alter ego cute? And all hell broke loose after that moment. Then flashback. So you still crossed us even in another world, huh Valerie? Maria asked with a smile that was waiting for the fish to bite, and sadly, Vali caved in. I honestly thought that in a new land, I could still use my alter ego for missions that required disguises, Vali said, recalling Issei's reaction when he saw the female alter ego of Vali and complimented, which made Vali blush, especially due to the fact that Issei learned some things from Gasper about crossdressing, so Issei used some makeup to make Valerie the center of attention. Making many of the girls of Fairy Tail pout at how much attention Valerie got more than them. I still can't believe you blushed when Issei applied your makeup on your face. Hahaha. Maria laughed while Vali continued to pray for God to kill him, while Altier wiped away a streak of blood that came from her nose. I support your fetish, but should you wish to pursue a relationship with Issei Haidu, all I ask is if I can gather some information, Altier said with some paper and a pencil in her hands, much to Vali's embarrassment. See? Your girlfriend support your man crush on Issei. Shut up, you overgrown lizard. Now, can you speak to your partner, mama? Albion asked with a teasing grin while Vali's face looked so red he was about to explode. I am not a mother. Pieces call me that, and you know it. Aw. Does someone need daddy to come and help with the kids? Albion asked before laughing his ass off, while Vali was praying for someone to save him from his death by embarrassment. Now, be nice to Vali. It's not his fault that he's weak to people who kick his ass. Azazel said, causing Maria to cough as she laughed and gasped from the lack of air in her lungs. Stop. You are killing me. Maria laughed in between before Kuroka appeared in her classic kimono before Azazel calmed down the god soul user. Alright. Now I know as much as you all want to continue messing with Vali about his crush, I just got word from Yusaka and her council. They're postponing the festival due to the threat of Cao Cao and the hero faction. After the last time they captured Yusaka, she wanted to protect her people so that the festival would be in Kuo Town instead and she would stay at Issei's home. However, they're planning on setting up a dummy festival in Kyoto to bring out Cao Cao and his group. Azazel explained, with Vali thanking his father for the save before looking over the file. So Yusaka and Kunu will be coming to Kuo Town. Not just them. Yusaka and Kunu will be escorted by a group of 10 Yakai soldiers, one of whom is highly skilled in fighting, and another woman who's working with Yusaka and has a child. The woman's name is Hisato Nana, goes by the nickname Hachi. She's to ensure that the connection between Yusaka and Kyoto is strong, so there are no issues should she be gone longer than they estimated. Arrival time? Before Friday. They're trying to keep a low profile on who knows since they expect Cao Cao to have spies everywhere. Azazel said before handing Vali another file. This is the location of their base, according to Jean and Georg. They were able to give us the location of their base, but are expecting it to be empty. But you want us to check it out to see if it's true and if we can get any information on Cao Cao and his plans. Bingo. Bikuo, Arthur, Kuroka, and Morgan are heading to Kyoto to help with the fake festival. At the same time, you and your girls investigate the base to ensure there is anything we can use to figure out Cao Cao's real plan and how ahead of us he really is. He's always tried to separate our forces, so we need to get ahead of him. Azazel said before Vali reassured the governor that they would be able to take care of it with no problems. Maria was excited since she got to fight, while Altair sighed before putting her book away after the dog-eared it. Oh, and by the way, your boyfriend told you to be safe. Azazel shouted at him before vanishing to avoid a blast from Vali's magic rifle. Later. Hero faction headquarters. So this is the location. Seems a bit creepy to have your headquarters be an abandoned castle. Maria said, looking around the area while Altair checked the inside of the castle with her magic. I can't detect anyone within the walls, but I feel a massive aura inside the center of the castle. It's as if a massive beast is there chained up and ready to attack us, Altair said before Vali replied to her search. Which definitely means we're in the right place, Vali said while summoning Divine Dividing. Maria, you're with me in the front. Altair, cover our rear. The trio then began to head into the castle to see that it really was abandoned after just a couple of days with blood on the walls and floor, along with many bodies, both human and demon corpses, scattered as if they were killed by something with large claws and bite marks. Stay on guard, Vali said with concern, making the two women nod his way as they continued to walk toward their target. However, things never go their way. Ah. Vali Lucifer. I thought you'd show up here after those traitors gave you the location of our base. A radio voice spoke to them until Cao Cao appeared as a hologram, making Vali appear to be annoyed at the former hero. Cao Cao. I'm surprised to see you even uglier than usual. What's the matter? Spent too much time in the underworld, or did Hades curse you after being done with you? Vali asked, making Cao Cao appear to be a bit annoyed until he replied to Vali. As much as I want to reply, I'd like to introduce you to my personal berserker. Cao Cao said before the ground began to shake as a massive figure appeared from the shadows, with the sound of chains being dragged on the stone ground, until the trio saw that the beast was an understatement. The berserker was a muscular, hulking man with bleach-white skin, black markings on his face and forearms, and a single row of brown spikes running down his spine. He had a relatively small head, with beady orange-yellow eyes and a wide set of teeth. On his fingers and toes are spiraling red appendages. A set of tubes with the same appearance stemmed from his back and connected to his head. He wore torn black plants with a brown belt. And on his wrists were chains attached to cufflinks on the beast. I'm sure you already remember Heracles, right, Vali? Wait. This is him. What have you done to him? Vali asked, a hint of concern in his tone as he saw the once mighty Heracles reduced to a beast in chains. Oh? Do you like his improvements? I thought he'd be perfect as a test subject to see how strong you are, since I saw a glimpse of Issei's new power in his battle with the Belair, but you've been a troublesome one, so I needed someone to test you to see what you're capable of now. Which is why I made my little group of Mau. It was easy since my magic evolved my fellow heroes who were able to survive the process and survive the tests I put them in. And those who failed became food for the others? Maria asked before Cao Cao replied. But of course. It's the perfect way to weed out the weaker demons from the strongest, and it worked wonderfully for me. Now, as you've probably guessed, Berserker here, formerly known as Heracles, won't let you leave, so I suggest you kill him, since that's the only way to put him down for good. Oh, and if you don't kill him in 10 minutes, there's going to be a fun surprise for you all. Have fun. Cao Cao said before laughing as the signal was cut off, making Berserker look at the trio before roaring as he ran on all fours towards the trio, rage in his eyes. Scatter. Vali shouted before the trio dodged with Altair summoning her orb. Luminous minutes. Altair shouted as the orb split into multiple orbs before blasting Berserker in the face. However, the orb seemed to only reflect off his body, making the beast hiss at Altair. Berserker then felt a cut on its face as it looked to see Maria appear behind its head, before Maria used her age seal to move quickly until she appeared in front of Berserker and clicked her teeth again before smirking at Berserker. Age scratch, Maria said until Berserker howled in pain as it felt its entire body was littered with multiple injuries, causing a fountain of blood to fall under its body, before Altair did a few hand signs. Ice make. Rose and Crone. Altair shouted as the vines bound Berserker to the ground. But as the beast was trying to free itself, Vali appeared behind it and fired multiple magic bullets from his magic Tommy gun, injecting sleep magic into the beast's body. This caused Berserker to calm down before collapsing on the floor. Vali flew back over to the girls before Maria smirked at their enemy. Heh. So much for a dangerous beast. Don't underestimate him. Heracles was a tank back when he was human, but who knows how durable he is now that Cao Cao turned him into this thing. Vali said while Altair placed a hand on the beast's head and closed her eyes, connecting to the beast's mind. You are no longer a false Hercules. You are now a being of immense power. My Berserker. Your skills are wasted working with the Greek faction. Join me and help me free humanity from the supernatural world. Altair was shocked to see Heracles' life before he became a demon, and a final memory scared her. Vali Lucifer will no doubt come here. Should he come to this castle with anyone, then go all out and don't hesitate to kill anyone who's with him, but if push comes to shove, use the new elixir that'll make you even stronger that the gods will fear you. Altair was about to cut off the connection when Berserker appeared before her, nodding and then speaking. As you command, my master. Altair gasped as she left the connection before calling out to her husband and lover. Maria. Vali. This isn't over yet. Altair shouted as the beast began to growl in its sleep as the tubes connected to its head began to have some magenta-colored liquid flow from the tubes and into his body, causing Berserker to growl as his body began to change into something more monstrous. I will not fail my master's orders. Berserker yelled as his thoughts were projected to the trio until his body began to become more of a beast than a human. I will kill and destroy all in my path for my master. Berserker roared, forcing the trio to cover their ears until a final thought hit their minds. How's break? His body became an extremely large ankylosaurus-like creature with 6 stumpy legs. His back was now covered in spikes, and his long tail ended in a spiked sphere. Berserker now had a big mouth and 6 eyes. Vali's eyes widened as Berserker roared at the trio, generating a massive amount of magic before releasing it. Uam. The blast shot into Vali, who was feeling the magic burn his skin until Divide began to drain the magic from the attack. Divide. 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 Vali gritted his teeth as he summoned his balance breaker and loaded the magic bazooka with all of the magic gathered from the blast until the attack ended. This made Vali smirk inside his armor while he aimed at Berserker, making a beeline for him with its mouth wide open. Rest in peace, Heracles, Vali said before firing the bazookas at the beast's mouth, making Berserker stiffen a bit until his body exploded, causing his body to fly everywhere with blood staining the earth until the upper body of Heracles was shown to be in the center of the demon's body, making Vali leave his armor and head towards Heracles until the hero looked up at Vali and smiled a bit. Thank you for freeing me. You really have changed Vali better than even us humans. Heracles said with a smirk, coughing into the air, and then passed away with his eyes closed, giving him a somewhat peaceful look. If it weren't for the fact that this guy worked for that narcissistic asshole and was forced to become a demon, then I'd honestly feel like he wasn't worth mourning, Maria said, looking over the former Berserker's body until Heracles' body was consumed by black flames, which left no trace of his being until Cao Cao appeared behind them. Such a disappointment. Cao Cao said before looking at the trio. But I will say that it was an enjoyable battle to see what you all were capable of. I'll be taking my leave for now, but I should warn you that I intend to eliminate both you and Issei Haidu. Enjoy your time until I come with my army to destroy you all. Cao Cao smiled as he was about to leave before a whip of fire sliced Cao Cao, making him hiss while holding his left arm before the 4 of them looked to see a woman approach them with her hair set ablaze. And like the old saying, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. How dare you threaten to harm my mate? A woman shouted. She appeared to be a pale-skinned young woman of average height with long, dark red hair, which is usually worn in a pair of massive waist-length braids that are tied together behind her back. Her free hair is shown to be wavy, flowing, and extremely long, with its length being manipulable at her will. The woman had full lips and reddish eyes that were always wide open, which, together with her tilted head, perpetually raised eyebrows, and semi-open mouth, gave her a somewhat deranged appearance. In addition, she seems to have visible bags below her eyes, adding to her distinctive look. She possessed an extremely voluptuous body, with very large breasts matched by similarly large hips, endowing her with a virtually perfect hergless figure. Her left shoulder bears a scar in the shape of an X, and her dark mark is located on the upper part of her right breast. It was the mark of her home village. The Sun Village. The woman's shapely figure was hugged by an extremely revealing crimson dress secured by halter neck straps, which leaves most of her upper body, namely her back, sides, and a large portion of her cleavage, almost reaching down to her navel, and, as a result, part of her guild mark, completely exposed. The dress reached down to her calves. The skirt was flouncy, possessing a large slash in its front right part for her legs to move freely. A lighter section, consisting of 2 elongated patches acting as a belt of sorts in correspondence to her waist, was apparently sewn to the dress. Her attire was completed by long gloves almost reaching up to her shoulders, matching her dress in color, each having a small cut on the upper outer edge. She also wore simple, light-colored boots. Flare. Isn't she that stalker who was obsessed with Vali? I believe that Issei was able to give Vali some advice to help her calm down around him. Flare smiled as she had her hair become a fist that grabbed Cao Cao by his body and continued to pummel him into the ground before Flare leaped into Vali's arms and kissed his face so many times the White Dragon Emperor had so many kisses from the lipstick. I'm so happy to see you again, my white knight in shining armor. Flare shouted, continuing to kiss Vali while the hair threw away Cao Cao until Flare let go of Vali and began to battle Cao Cao, making him afraid of the woman. As much as I want to fight you, Vali, I'm afraid I have more important things to do, but don't worry. I'll be back. Tell Issei to enjoy his marriage while it lasts because I'm coming for him first before you. Cao Cao said, vanishing from the area, making Vali glare at the former hero until he sensed that Cao Cao was gone. I'm glad to see you, Flare. How did you get here? Vali asked before Flare rubbed herself on Vali, moaning as she was happy to take in the scent of the man she loved. I'll tell you later, but I need my snuggles and kisses. Flare said before Vali teleported them back to the Grigori, where Lavinia was going to enjoy talking to his new lover. With Issei. So you mean to tell me that you and Zenobia decided to swap powers because you both wanted to try and be in each other's roles after a conversation with Georg? Issei asked while seeing Asia training with ex-Urandal while Zenobia was practicing using Twilight Healing. Well, the thing is that we've been feeling this way for a while now after you left, and truthfully, I've felt this way since I've always felt like a burden to you, Asia said. Even before the duo swapped powers, Asia felt envious of Zenobia since she was everything that Asia wasn't. The nun wished she could be as strong and confident as Zenobia so that, with her power, she could actually help Issei, rather than be a burden. Zenobia was also going through her trials, as Asia went through hers. She thought that if Asia had been honed for battle like myself, she could have easily saved Issei before Zenobia could even attempt to do so. Zenobia thought before she explained how she imagined herself as a bishop healing and helping Issei, while Asia imagined herself with Durandal swinging her sword and cutting down her foes with Issei. When Urza and Brandish appeared, the two of them knew that Issei needed all the help he could get, so they decided to swap powers and begin to help each other get used to the other's powers. Issei was glad they told him, but was concerned about their well-being. I won't say anything since this was your choice, but I wanted to see if you two were truly okay with this, since switching powers is a big game changer. Did you tell Riaz about this? Issei asked before Asia replied to him. We tried to, but Riaz seemed busy with something related to family assistance. Issei nodded at this before suggesting that Asia and Zenobia should get some help with their training. So, Issei asked Urza to help train Asia in swordsmanship. Issei can help Zenobia with what he knows about magic, but Asia could help fill in the gaps. Thank you. It would mean a lot, but where's Brandish? Oh, Brandish told me that she was going to get a job thanks to Azazel's connections, though knowing him, I'd wager a guess where she's going to end up, Issei said, while knowing where she's going to be and how much she's going to tease both him and Urza when they see the Nation Destroyer at her new job. Now then, I think you should face one of my familiars to help you get better adjusted with Ex-Durandal, since your body isn't built like Zenobia, since you trained to be a healer your whole life instead of a knight, so your body won't be able to move as fast, even with the knight piece in your body. Issei said before pulling out a black key from his storage, but this key seemed to have chains around itself. The key was black, ending in a spade-like tip connected to the bow by a dark serpentine figure spiraling around the blade of the key. The center of the bow is black, stamped with the crest of the snake charmer, colored in white, with the serpentine figure spiraling around it. Asia and Zenobia stiffened as they sensed a massive demonic but celestial force within it, until Issei muttered a single word. Release. The chain snapped as a massive purple aura enveloped the key until Issei raised a key into the air and turned it as if unlocking a door. "Look up and behold." Issei declared that a massive portal had appeared above him. "Open gate of the snake charmer." Ephiatus. The portal released a tremendous amount of power as Asia stiffened to see a massive serpent emerge from it. The serpent almost reminded her of Office, somehow, before it began to transform into a smaller being. "Thank you for summoning me, master. Can I have some snuggles with you later?" Ephiatus asked as her form turned from a massive snake to a young woman with short black hair. She wears a sleeveless white leotard with horizontal and vertical lines in the middle and on top of her breast, along with some black spots over it and a black bow tie. She also wore long pink stockings with wide ornaments going around each stocking at the thigh. Also, she seemed to have a shroud of darkness around her body. Ephiatus smiled as she nuzzled into Issei's back before Issei rubbed her head, making her moan in delight from the touch of affection. "Allow me to introduce my final familiar. Ephiatus. She's very affectionate, starved, and enjoys wrapping herself on me since she's a bit possessive," Issei said, calming down the snake woman, who had her arms wrapped around Issei's neck and seemed to nuzzle into his back as if asking for attention until Issei began to rub her head, making her smile wider. Asia readied herself as she was ready to not only prove to herself that she wouldn't be a burden, but that she could also fight by Issei's side. But said Nation Destroyer. "I am definitely going to enjoy teasing the hell out of Urza and Issei when they see my new uniform," Brandish said while checking out her new clothes for her job, which made Azazel snicker while imagining Issei enjoying the view. In contrast, Urza was teased by so many role-play fantasies. "Please take some videos or pictures so I can enjoy this," Azazel said before Brandish smirked at him. "Oh please, if you knew the kinds of things that Issei and Vali did to their harems, you'd probably write a book on it," Brandish said, knowing Issei and Vali enjoyed going on dates with their lovers when they got married to said lovers. Their firsts were Brandish and Urza, while Vali's first time was with Altair and Flare. Azazel continued to cry tears of joy. He was so happy that he wished the governor was there for the wedding, but he would take the joy of seeing Issei and Ravel being married. "So tell me, are you and Issei going to enjoy yourselves with the other girls before your new job begins?" "But of course. I still want to help Issei frost Urza's cake, well I want to take a bite of that yummy phoenix. For research purposes, of course." "Of course," Azazel said in response before receiving a text from Lavinia to show Vali was currently being hugged by Flare, while Altair was giving Vali a lap pillow. Still, Di Maria was trying to get out of the hair that Flare trapped her in, which made Azazel chuckle a bit. "Next week will definitely be interesting," Azazel said, knowing that Yusaka would be able to return safely to Kyoto without any fear that Cao Cao would return, since Vali sent a video message of the battle with Berserker and Cao Cao's message to both Vali and Issei. Still, little did the hero know that the Dragon Emperors would not be easy to kill, especially with their girlfriends coming into their world and would kill to protect them. That's it guys. Until the author add more chapters. Take care.